Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of the Extra Credits Book Club podcast. I am Decker. This is Night Mother. We're talking about Jade War
This book.
by Fonda Lee, the sequel to a book we liked a lot.
Yeah, and a sequel I was really stoked to read until I started reading it.
Yeah. This was one of, I crammed all 16 of these chapters in the course of 3 days.
Yep, me too.
I did not have a good time. It was like pulling teeth.
I wouldn't say that I'm somebody who really experiences like seasonal depression, but for the last 3 days, I've gotten a taste for what it could feel like. Like everything felt so I was thinking about this book all the time. The way that it just sucked all the joy out of my days, and how I was doing everything I could to not pick it up and get through the pages I needed to get through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's measured out so easily for us. All we've got to do is read 4 chapters for 4 days, and that's it. And I ended up reading, on Monday, I ended up reading 5 because I skipped Sunday. And then yesterday I did 10. Or no, I did 12. What's I don't know math.
I couldn't tell you a single thing about the last 3 days, to be honest. It took me, if I'm really into a book, I can read it in a day. 100 pages can go by in an hour, no problem.
Yeah.
It took me, and I would be like, okay, I have 50 pages to get through before I can go to bed. And it would be 6:30 when I was at the 50 pages. It's like, no problem. And then all of a sudden it was 10 and nothing had been done.
It is listening to it is a struggle because I can't read faster. I can't gloss over things. I can't skim.
Mm-hmm.
I have to sit and listen to this guy limp his way through accents.
Oh, right.
Because, well, our chapters this time, we start with Andon, who has become our least favorite boy.
Which is so disappointing, because he was my most favorite boy in the first one.
He had such potential, and then he became a sniveling brat. Immediately.
Who does not know how to process that other cultures exist and performs so many mental gymnastics to fit the country's culture that he's living in into a Kekanese hierarchy.
We, through the course of these chapters, we find out that the Kekanese think really shitty stuff about every other culture.
Yeah.
They are of the opinion they are the greatest culture to ever have been.
The most noble, civilized.
Anytime they bring up other cultures, it's always with a degrading stereotype tacked onto it at the end. It's like, you guys. You guys have cockfights for fun.
I know. I've never quite gotten over that. But it's like a cornerstone of their culture.
Bizarrely.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gonna be, oh god, it's gonna be so hard to recount this. I've already wiped so much of it from my mind.
Well, Andon goes with the family that he's kind of like billeted at, um, to what he's calling the Pillars home. I don't know if anybody besides Andon kind of thinks of him as the pillar. I think they kind of do. He's kind of like the unofficial community leader
Yeah.
of the Kekanese people living in Port Massey.
It's like
And
it's a fake clan.
totally.
Like it's just a clan that they made up so that they could like feel at home. It's very like the vibe, big poser energy.
Yeah, fully.
Because everybody at this clan is just kind of like the vibe is like if these people grew up watching Kekanese movies on TV and then that's all they think of the culture. Like it's
Yeah.
so fake. And
Which is
Andon's
weird
just like,
because
wow, it's just like being back home.
I know, and it's I don't know, it's so I don't know. Like as soon as they get to his house, because like the reason they're going is because Andon got beat up a guy after he stole his bike and then tried to gaslight the guy into believing that he didn't actually steal his bike.
Yeah.
And when he gets and meets this man who they're calling the Pillar of South Trap, Andon's like, this man does not strike me as a green bone warrior. It's like, yeah, because this isn't K-Con.
He's not. He's just
Yeah.
got some jade. There's also a lot of fake jade around that they just like
And
have on
Andon
display.
Andon is so paranoid about anything green at this point. Like he sees a green vase and almost goes into like a panicked frenzy. I can't be around this stuff.
Yeah.
Like killing too much.
And this is where I was like, why did Fondly feel the need to add more? Like there was no need for this like tertiary fake clan to be introduced because it doesn't matter. No reason for this.
That could be said about pretty much everything in this book so far.
So far, yeah. But
like it's all just so inconsequential.
I generally, when it comes to like when I read books, I can generally kind of get a feel for and track sort of like storyline beats that they're going for. Like, oh, this is going to lead up to this thing, or this is kind of a way to get this involved. But with this fake clan, it's just like, what are we doing here? Like the bus is going to be leaving soon. Why are we stopped? It's so weird, and it's just like these dudes in this clan, they like fight for a little bit and then no, they don't. This is before they go to like the cool fight club.
Yeah, this is just the guy's
it's like
house
dinner.
And like Andon finds out that the little biker boy he has a crush on is the son of this pillar, and his name is Corey. And the whole time they're having
Very
dinner,
Kekanese
Andon is
name.
like, yeah, Andon is trying to like subtly, what he thinks is a subtle way of investigating where Corey wears his jade. So he's like sitting really close to him at dinner, and like in my mind's eye, like he's just like looking over at him the whole time like this, and then he tries to get his arm really close, and then he like brushes up against his jade aura, and he's like, it's got to be somewhere. And then he's like, no, I shouldn't get too close. It's too good.
God forbid.
But then this mysterious, yeah. Then this like mysterious dude shows up, and Andon is like, oh my god, he's got to be like a fist in the clan. Oh, just kidding. He's got to be like the horn in the clan. And they're just discussing what to do about this mess Andon made about beating up the guy. And then they just basically talk about like how they're going to pay off the crew that he offended, and then say that they'll also promise their continued silence about something they saw that they haven't gone to the police about. And Andon is like getting so nervous because that's his favorite thing to do, is just fret endlessly about things that like are kind of beyond his control, but also as a direct result of something stupid he did.
Yeah.
And they're also talking about like how civilian Jade is about to become illegal in Espenia. And it's like, oh God, like they are probably going to want a favor from No Peak at some point, because for whatever reason, he's shocked that they know who he is and what family he belongs to. He's like, oh, I thought you guys all just thought I was some regular guy. Like, of course they're going to know.
Yeah.
I thought that was very dumb.
These are like weeaboos, essentially. So of course they would know all of the names of the real ones.
For sure.
And Andon is like, oh God, what if they use me to get leverage on the rest of No Peak? And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. What do you mean?
Yeah. He does like tell the pillar. It's like, I'm kind of exiled from like family, like they aren't going to do shit to help you. And he's like, no, don't worry. Like, I like your spirit, kid. Which I was exiled from Hakon as well. So we find like, it's insinuating that they're going to find some kind of exiled community with one another, but the intention remains to be seen.
It is absolutely just going to be like, if you ever want to see your dumb cousin again, bring a bunch of real Jade. Mark my words. But anyway, that chapter's over, thank God. Let's go over to Shay, who is standing in the mirror, practicing Hispanian, which broke my brain a little bit. Because this is 18 months, 20 months, give or take, after the first book.
Is it? Yeah. For whatever reason, I thought it was 3 years, but I'm wrong. No, I'm thinking something else.
It will be 3 years by the time we get to the end of these chapters. Because time skips about 6 months over the course of like 3 chapters.
Yeah, okay.
But Shay is practicing Espenian in the mirror, and I was like, hold on a second. At the beginning of the first book, you just came back from Espenia.
Right.
Where I assumed you lived for at least a couple years. You mean to tell me that you forgot a language you're fluent in 18 months?
Yeah, that's weird. She's been like listening to the radio and shit to try and remember.
Yeah.
Like, I don't speak more than one language, so I can't properly weigh in on this, but I feel like it would take longer than that to lose like conversational levels of a language that
I don't think you forget. Like, if you have to speak it for any length of time, like fluently, you don't forget it. It's just up there now.
Yeah, it should have like it shouldn't have some kind of like muscle memory impact on your brain where sure, like you need a little bit of like remembering, but you shouldn't have to like look at notes in the mirror.
We also find out in this chapter that whenever they say things like call Jen, Jen means someone who carries Jade. Why wasn't that explained in the first book?
Yeah.
Anyway.
And it's because she's meeting these Espenian, like a colonel and an ambassador. And I am dying to know what accents the narrator gave these men.
Imagine someone who can't do an English accent.
Did he do them for both?
Yeah. Someone who can't do an English accent, but really commits to it anyway.
Yeah.
It's not great, but essentially Shay is trying to leverage the continued export of jade against the global political climate of the moment, which is not great.
Mm-hmm.
Things are tense. And she's basically like, you could look, if you want more jade, maybe don't get so fucking antsy around Eguton. Okay? Maybe don't do that. And they're like, okay. In true, white imperialist manner. Yes, we
Mm-hmm.
will absolutely do that. Now please send it. And she's like, okay. Um and then they just kind of like whinge for a while about not being able to have the fancy new weapon that they can't make on their own.
I didn't even pick up on that, to be honest. I didn't know there was any talk of weaponry.
Jade is the weapon.
Oh. Oh, of course, yeah. Um, I just remember this one moment where she's like meeting up with these guys and she's like in her mind like, "Oh, they're probably wondering how in 7 short years I have become one of the most influential political and business figures on the island of Kekon." It's like nepotism.
Yeah.
That's how you did
Also,
that.
if you think Aspenia still thinks about you, Shay, you're dead wrong. They don't know who you are.
Well, that would not compute for her because she's the only person that exists in the world.
Yeah.
But she's like she gives them records from Doru that Igutan is doing large scale shine production, and like that's really valuable intel. And she in return is asking for them to make it easier for Kekanese businesses to operate in Espenia. And they're like, well, we can't promise that. And they're like really like skittish around the idea of favor trading. Like they would have preferred to just give her money, but she's trying to kind of bridge this ongoing partnership with them.
Yeah, because the only two traits that a Aspenian possesses is greed and not wanting to be indebted
Mm-hmm.
to anybody, whether it be favors or anything. Like, it is the most generic traits for white people.
Yeah.
Come on, Fond du Lis.
But like the most accurate too.
Yeah, it is accurate, but it's also really generic.
Yeah.
Like, just make them like these white people are essentially like the Dr. Livingston, I presume, level of British imperialists. Like, I imagine them in their little safari hats and their giant mustaches that are twirled with wax, and they're like, yes, I would.
Yeah.
It would be certainly suitable to acquire as much jade as possible. We have the cash here, in fact.
Yeah. That's them. That's every Espenian.
Yeah. But anyway, that chapter's over. Maybe. I don't know if there's anything else. I have a terrible habit of once I like feel that I've taken plenty of notes for that chapter, I'm like, okay, I'm done. And then I just don't write anything else, even if something else happens.
Those are all the events. Moving on.
But I don't think anything else happened in that. It was literally just them talking about, like, it was just the British grousing about having to like do favors.
Yeah, that's all it was.
And then we go to Hilo flying to another one of these countries that has a name that is impossible to place its like real world allegory with.
Yeah. How is it pronounced?
I don't remember. What's it?
It looks like it should be pronounced like Steppenland.
Yeah, that is how it's pronounced.
Okay. Okay.
Which could be like Norway, like the Norwegian countries.
Or like Denmark or like Switzerland. Like it could be maybe the Netherlands. Like it could be literally anywhere.
But it's Lon's ex-wife. Hilo is turned up to go deal with Lon's ex-wife, who had his son And then he like shows up and immediately just like barges in her house.
Yeah, it's aggressive. He's like, let me see my nephew. Like, goes into the kid's bedroom without like saying hi.
And like the vibe I got from her this whole interaction was she has to be lying about this kid. The
Oh,
fact
you
that
think?
she's freaking out about how like Hilo shows up like I'd like to see my nephew please, and she's like
Mm-hmm.
no you can't no it's don't worry I told you guys to leave me alone. I was like, what the, you can't send them a letter saying by the way this is your son and not expect them to do something about it.
Well, she sent it years ago at
She
that
sent it
point.
right before he died.
Yeah, and it's been like 2 years since Lon
Yeah,
died, basically.
it's been like
But
18-ish months, but
so
at the same time like she changed her mind, which
yeah.
is like I don't know. I didn't get a very trustworthy vibe from her in this portion of the book.
I think though when Hilo sees the kid and he's like, "Oh my god, he's a spitting image of my brother." To me that kind of
Right.
proves it. I genuinely think like her whole deal had more to do with not wanting anyone to take her son away from her.
Right.
Because she has this very biased opinion about greenbone culture, despite being like Kekanese. She just associates every greenbone with like being a gangster and a criminal. And she's like, not my son. He'll never be brought up in that. And I think she knows that by taking him back to Janloon, like that's how he'll grow up and then he'll die.
Right. But this is an opinion she's always had since she left Lon.
Right.
But why fucking send the letter in the first place?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's so much in this book just doesn't add up.
I know. And I don't think, like, okay, I think send the letter in the first place was just a plot device. I don't think it had anything to do with Annie or her character, because
Right.
otherwise we would know more. Like, I don't think we're going to find out any more about her.
No. But Hilo is essentially like, hey, look, I want this kid. He's
Yeah.
mine essentially. So I'll tell you what's gonna happen. You are gonna come with me back to KCON and we're gonna raise him and be very happy. And she's like, I can't. I have a husband now. And he's like, okay, bring him too. I don't give a fuck. And then her husband comes home, and boy, oh boy, if you thought the Espenian accent was bad, listen to this guy
Oh
try and do
no.
like a Swedish accent.
Oh,
I can't
Lors.
even pretend to do it because I can't do one that bad.
Oh no. In my mind, he was like Irish. I don't know why.
No, it's definitely like Norwegian style accent.
He's disgusting, this man. He comes home.
Yeah.
He's a walking ick. And Hilo is like trying to get him to warm up to him by giving him this like false sense of camaraderie. And Lors responds the grossest way imaginable by being like, I didn't know like how hot the women in KCON were before I like went there. Am I right? And he like spanks
Yeah.
Annie and
And calls
it's
her
like,
a souvenir.
Yeah. And oh my god. And then Hilo immediately comes back with like, oh, it's so nice to see you both so happy together, even after such a big move and the addition of a child that you must have hoped was yours. And then Lors counters with, oh, well, we plan to give him plenty of brothers and sisters. He'll fit right in. Like he's just a stray animal they found in the street.
And that's that chapter.
Well, there's a little more.
Is there?
And it's not that much more. Well, it's basically like Hilo proposes to Lors
right.
and Annie while he's there that Nico, the kid, should split his time 6 months in Janloon, 6 months in Steppenland. And Lors is immediately way too enthusiastic about it. He's like, perfect. Oh my God, that would be so great. It's going to get a little crowded in here soon with all the kids I'm planning on giving this guy. Haha. And then they decide to like let them think on it for a couple of nights and they're going to reconvene and have dinner before Hilo goes back to Janloon.
Right. But keep in
the
mind,
meantime,
dear reader, none of this will matter.
No, that could be said about anything.
True, but this one really won't matter.
Yeah, Hilo tells Tar to follow Lors and get all the information he can on the guy in the meantime.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the chapter.
And then we're back with Shay, who, in the midst of having sex with her fucking square boyfriend, the dude is... And my very first note in this chapter was, wouldn't it be funny if Mara was a spy too?
That would be great.
It would be pretty funny. Because I don't get a good read on this guy.
Me neither.
The vibes are off. Even without like what we find out later. Just beneath the surface, there's something weird. So I was like, he's got to be a spy, right?
Yeah.
But anyway,
I wish.
They're having sex really, like they had just finished.
Yeah,
and then he does this really gross thing where he like jiggles her boob.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you, 10? Have you never seen one before?
He's like, this is why I'm dating you. And basically does like the hands equivalent of motorboating her.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, Morrow.
He's like, stop, you don't mean that. And he goes, no way, I like spending time with you because of your personality. And I was like, say psych right now.
Yeah, it was gross. I kind of blacked out at that point.
Yeah.
But she's like, does it bother you that like I wear more jade than you? He's like, yeah, kind of, to be honest.
That fucking baiting. God, she's the worst.
I know.
Also, she takes credit for killing Doru.
I know. She's like, I had to kill a man that I didn't want to kill.
No,
she does kind of pedal after that, though. And she's like, well, I couldn't actually do it. Like, in the end, and I...
Yeah. And, of course, as with any chapter that Morrow's in, it turns into an info dump.
Yeah, his like
just
tragic
starts talking
backstory.
about, yeah, it's either geopolitical, climate, or his tragic backstory, which I completely blanked out. I don't remember a word of it. I didn't take any notes because my whole note is everything with this guy is an info dump.
Yeah, it is. He's like, well, I have my own family trauma, you know, like every family's got a darkness inside of them, Shay. He goes on to tell this story about how he found out that he was half Shatarian and his mom didn't tell him about it until she was on her deathbed. And he's like, I could have overcome so much of my family trauma if I only knew that. I spent so much time believing I wasn't good enough as a greenbone warrior, because she like lied about his real dad being like some war hero who died or something. And he's like, well, if my dad was a war hero, why not me? and he's like, you don't have a monopoly on poisonous honor culture, Shay. And it's like, she doesn't register that because like she's got a monopoly on everything.
Yeah, she's always got the gold medal in the Oppression Olympics.
Yeah. And then he found out his dad was still alive and then went to visit him, but it was like some kind of weird, it was like weird and sad. He's like, I think my dad is like reminded of like sad times whenever I go to visit him. So it just sounds like their relationship is just kind of a bummer. But he's got these like half sisters that are half Shatarian, and like, who cares? And then they talk about her, like Shay having him over for dinner at her house. And then she's like reflecting on her relationship with Gerald. And
Yeah.
she's still so fundamentally like unable to compute what that relationship was. Like, she's like, yeah, it's my ex. It's like,
No.
you were being used as an informant for Espenia, and you were all too happy to oblige and like live in this fantasy world.
Like, fully gaslighting herself into thinking it wasn't just a honeypot operation.
Well, and the fact that like he went back to Espenia and like didn't invite her, and then she like gets kicked out by her family. She's like, Gerald, I'm coming to be with you. Finally. He's like,
oh, sick. Oh, okay. I've got a spare room.
Yeah. But that's basically that whole moment. The next day she goes to work. Woon tries to resign because he's in love with her, which like, Woon, come on, man.
Yeah.
You can do better than this. And he's like, I guess existing beside her is too hard.
It's too
and
much.
Shay just straight up is like, no, like you're not quitting. And like uses emotional leverage against him, which
Right.
I honestly like, I'm okay with her doing that.
It was like, for all the dumb bullshit that Shay does, telling him no was the right thing to do.
Yeah, totally. Like, as much as you should let people go and tend to their feelings, not in this instance.
Yeah.
He's the only one who can do this job. Put your feelings aside, my guy.
And then something on TV is about Igutan getting invaded.
Is that where this little town is? How do they pronounce it? It looks like it's like Urtoko or Ortoko or something.
I don't know.
I think
don't
that's
remember.
gotta
It's
be
like-
an Igutan though, right?
Like Orotoko or something like that. But
Okay.
it is Igutan getting invaded by
Espenia.
Espenia. I almost said the other one, Chitario.
Oh.
Chitaria. But anyway, Hilo is like immediately goes back to like the next day. The next day he immediately goes back to Annie's house. And he's like, "Hey, I'm back." And she's like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, are you going somewhere?" Because they've got like bags packed, like they are going somewhere. And he's like, "Cool,
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. Where's your husband?" She's like, "Oh, where else?" And he's like, cool. So here's the deal. I'm gonna kill you.
He did like, but it's like, it's so abrupt. Like,
Yeah.
it's not premeditated. He didn't go there with the intention. Like,
He's talking with her and she's being a nervous Nelly. And then the kid cries and she goes to go get him and he's like, "No." And he just uses his like Jade super speed and like turns her head around and he bonks his lip and he's like, "Ow."
yeah.
But she's dead and then he's like, "Guess I'm taking this kid."
Yeah, he's like, "Listen, I was pushed. I had no choice. I had to kill her."
And Ken in the one? No, it's Tar.
Tar
Is in the car and he's like, doesn't even question the fact that he's got this kid now.
No.
And Hilo's basically like, "You're gonna have to take care of the other guy."
Yeah, and Tar's like, "You're just put the car seat in the back seat." Like, and Hilo's like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to change some like flight information around and forge a birth certificate."
Easy peasy.
Yeah, no problem.
And then time skips 6 weeks.
Yeah, and Wen gives birth to a baby boy. So Hilo went from having 0 to 2 kids in like
Minutes.
6 weeks, yeah.
And then there's an interlude, and this is a first for me. My notes for the interlude is a single question mark.
Oh.
What? Like I spent that because their interludes are super brief. They're like a minute
I
and a
hate
half.
them. I don't
And
understand why we need them.
this one in particular, I was like, "What are you saying? What's happening?" And then it was over, and I
I
was
don't.
like, "Oh well."
All I wrote is something about Greenbone princes or whatever, and
Right.
that's it. Poignant stuff. They're
But
all
anyway,
just kind of meant to like foreshadow something that happens in like the immediate next chapter.
yeah, and they're usually like mythological or yeah, it's usually mythological.
Yeah, I'd say they're yeah, like 100% mythological.
But it's just like a passage from the Bible essentially.
It's like a lot of their deitist teachings, I think,
Right. But
and like Greenbone mythology.
yeah. And in this next chapter, we're with Andon again, who's hanging out with his new toxic fave, because Andon's choice in men is disgusting. The dirtier, the better.
Dirty? Wait, how's Corey dirty?
The way that Fonda Lee describes the boys that Andon is interested in, I picture a guy who doesn't shower. Both times.
Really? I never got that vibe from Corey.
The other kid he liked in the first book, hella non-shower vibe. But this kid, he kind of strikes me as I shower when I feel like it, or when my mom tells me.
Well, my favorite part with this is that like, so he started like playing relay ball twice a week with his crush and all the friends. But then the weather starts turning, and there's this one instance, and it's like Andon falls into like a slushy puddle, and from the way he describes it, like he may as well have gone like ice diving without a wetsuit. It's like Andon experienced a cold like he'd never felt before, and he like gets up and he's like shivering, and it's probably like it's not even snowing. It's slush. Get over it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But he's from
like,
K-Con, where there's no snow. So any snow is the coldest experience. Like, just because he's never experienced snow, any snow will be the coldest thing he's ever experienced.
Oh, it's true. I'm not saying his experience was inaccurate. I'm just saying he's being a little bitch about it.
Yeah. But this is also when I was like, hey, why is Andon in this book? They could have left him out. It would have cut about 100 pages out of this book. Saved us a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Like, just send him to Hispania. We don't need to know what's happening over there.
And I do like the parallel, though, of Barrow and his, like, crypto bro hangout, and Andon with his, like, fake Jade fight club. Because this is when they go to the fight club, where it's just a bunch of people pretending to be green bones, fighting each other, and then like, nice bro, that was a good duel.
Yeah, this is where we find out more fun Espenian slang that gives big like Disney's Mary Poppins chimney sweep energy.
Oh boy.
Where they call each other crumbs all the time, and then they're like, that's mad toppers every time they do something cool. But the fact that they're calling each other crumbs, it's so stupid.
It's really embarrassing. It's like someone watched Peaky Blinders and took away all the wrong lessons.
Yeah.
Like the kind of people who without context and without provocation just say Peaky fucking Blinders.
Yeah, and they think it means like an expression instead of like it's proper nouns basically.
Yeah.
Like they don't realize it's the name of like their organization. They just think it's like a statement of something cool.
Yeah, like some kind of secret handshake.
Yeah.
Show's not that good, bro.
Well, whoa. It's a pretty good show.
I didn't like
Do
it.
I need to watch it with subtitles? Yes. Have I gotten past the beginning of season 2? No. I'm still planning on watching it.
I didn't like it.
What didn't you like about it?
I don't remember, because I remember I watched it like when it first came out. And I watched the first couple episodes and I was just like, meh. I'm good, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
And a lot of people have told me to watch it since. But
well, that's just gonna have the opposite effect.
I've got scruples, man. But so they've got like fights at this place. They've also got cockfights because that's things that they do also. And in the middle of them fighting, Andon's like, "Wow, it's just like back home." And then in almost a ripped from the pages Monty Python bit, an Espenian cop busts the door in and is like, "Right, what's all this then?"
Yeah.
And Andon's like, "Oh my god, it's the cops." And everybody else is just kind of like placating this cop, and I'm like, "Oh, it's a shakedown. Got it."
Yeah, and then Andon's like, "Oh, so like the cops are like another clan." And
God,
like,
he's fucking stupid.
Andon. Like, Andon, sit down. Don't think too hard. But then the most romantic scene in the book happens.
No. Not yet. Because Andon has to go through another crisis of the siren song of Jade.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
And then he's in the car with Corey. And Corey's like, "So why don't you wear Jade?" And Andon tells him a lie. And says,
"What's the lie?"
He says, because Corey's like, "Oh, is it because you didn't want to be a killer?" And Andon was like, "No." And I was like, "Fuck you. It is because you didn't want to be a killer, you piece of shit."
Well, he adds the caveat. It's like, it's not that. It's that I just didn't want to like being a killer. He's like, I understand people have to kill people sometimes in the Jade business, but
yeah,
I didn't really like it.
After that, then Andon gets a bit of the old gluck gluck.
Yeah, Corey's like, "So like, I bet you're wondering where I keep my Jade." And it turns out he has like a little belly button piercing, and that's where he keeps it. And then they do a little bit of like chest touching, and then Andon gets his first ever blowjob in a car.
Yeah, and he blows
and it's
it
like his first ever, like,
immediately.
Yeah. I think it was like his first ever like kiss too.
Yeah.
Besides one drunk kiss with a girl like at a bar once, but
and I'll tell you one thing. There's one thing I could have done without. Like, if Andon wants to get his dick sucked, that's fine.
Sure.
But what I could have done without Fonda Lee is Corey wiping his mouth. Leave that part out. And like the way she described it, dude comes up like, "Wah!" It's like, man.
Whoa.
Like, sure, it was his first time, so the dude probably packed like a toothpaste tube full. But for God's sake.
Yeah, we don't need to know those details.
Anyway. The next chapter, my first note is, I never thought I would be thankful for a Barrow chapter.
This is the first Barrow chapter where, oh, no, this isn't the one. It's a different one. But yeah, it was kind of like a relief to be with even a super cringy person because everybody else has been worse.
Yeah. And I don't remember what they're doing.
Well, he and Mutt have like moved their way up to Jade Smuggler middle management, and they are overseeing like people picking Jade scraps out of something
Right.
like rubble or something like that. And
Mhm.
then he's like fantasizing about a future with even more jade, which is the one thought he has in his whole life forever. And the police show up, but it's like the police with some members of the mountain clan, including the new horn, whose name escapes me. They try to get away. Their car's stopped in the middle of the road. Barrow's dragged out, and everybody questioning him are like, holy shit, kid, where did you get so much jade? And like an idiot, he's like, I won it from Kalon himself.
Yeah.
And they're like, they laugh in his face because of course they do.
It's like, do you remember the movie George of the Jungle with Brendan Fraser?
Yeah, I love that movie.
You remember the part where the like African guides were like, now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Yeah.
That's what the gang did. They all of them threw their heads back with laughter, and he's like, I'm serious.
Yeah, I won it. I'm a hero.
And this is another one of those moments where Fondly is really stretching my suspension of disbelief. Mm-hmm. Because as these guys are all like scavenging jade, and the cops turn up with the mountain clan, they just start executing people with zero. They're just like, you dead, like nobody survives. And then when he gets to Barrow, he's like, you get to live. And I'm like, no,
why?
There's no reason. You kill him and take the jade. That's how this works. This is what you've established.
Yeah, they don't need him alive to deliver a message to Soradio. Like, the message is implicit with the dead bodies.
Yeah.
That's all you need. You don't need him to go back and be like, by the way, the mountain clan killed people. And like the horn of the mountain is like, you actually because his perception is apparently really good. He's like, you genuinely believe you're wearing Kalon's jade, which means before long you're gonna wish I'd killed you tonight. It's like, just kill him.
Yeah, save us the trouble. But that would take away the whole villain of the series, to be sure.
Who's surviving on pure luck.
Surviving on plot armor.
Yeah.
Fondly knows that Barrow is the final villain. So she is bending over backwards to make this dumb fuck survive, when every scenario he's in, he should be killed.
Especially because he is so expendable. Like,
he's super expendable. Like, even like, he's not a crony anymore, and yet he continues to put himself in situations where he is a crony nobody.
He's got that crony mindset.
Yeah,
like,
it's
he'll
so
never
pathetic.
He'll never get out of middle management if he keeps this mindset happening.
And then after that, the book skips ahead 3 months.
Yeah.
Where at this point, a whole year has gone by from the beginning of the book.
Wow. Okay.
So now it is 3 years since the first book.
Right. Awesome.
Which is
time well spent.
What's the point? Why not a duology?
Honestly, yeah.
Like,
the first 2 books could have been combined.
I understand that trilogies are sexy. Everybody likes a trilogy. They sell better.
Duologies are so hip right now.
Right. And there's no like, this book feels like it was an obligation for Fondly. Like, she had to write it, so she just kind of whipped up something real quick, even though she didn't really want to get to the end yet. And it's so obvious that's the case, and it sucks that I have to read it.
I guess you can't call something a saga if there's only 2 books. And she really wanted this to be the Greenbone saga, so I don't know. I don't know the reason for this book needing to exist with so many pages.
Yeah, it's like almost 600 pages. For
Yeah,
what?
it's
For what? But this chapter
yeah.
is Hilo and Shay are courting their future and potential puppet pillar
Yeah.
because they're going full CIA tactics in courting someone to potentially take the place of someone they're going to usurp or overthrow, and then install them as a puppet leader that they can potentially overthrow if they need to again.
Right,
Classic
yeah.
CIA moves. They've been doing it in
Fully.
the South America for decades. And the Middle East, probably. Uh, this guy, like, openly hates Aitmata,
Yeah.
and
And women kind
they're
of.
like, ooh, I don't know if this guy's right for us. I'm like, isn't this exactly the kind of person you want? Like, what do you mean? You cannot be picky in this scenario. He is your best shot.
Yeah. Yeah. And like on the way to meet this guy, Shay's like, so like what do we tell the clan about this kid you stole? And as if they would not have talked about that in the 3 months since he got home. Like
Right. Well,
they
we weren't
presumably talk like every day.
party to, like, they just never spoke in the last 3 months because
Yeah.
there's clearly no plot happening there either.
No. But there's this moment where she's like reflecting, and it's like what Hilo had done went against the divine virtues. And like, I don't remember us discussing Shay becoming religious at any point. Like, I know she went to the temple like one time in the last book, and then I guess she just decided that religion was for her.
Yeah.
Okay.
She went to the temple, and then Aitmata came to see her at the same temple and was rude. And then
Yeah. And she's like, oh, divine virtues,
yeah.
deitism. It's for me now.
But this guy that they want to prop up, he's like, "Oh no, I couldn't do that. I'm much too old. I'm close to retirement age. But my son is someone I'd like to see." And like the almost with comedy timing, the camera pans over and this guy's a complete fucking scumbag.
Yeah.
And I was like, this will work out fine.
Perfect.
But that's basically it. Like they are like, cool, okay, we'll use your son then. And they're like, all right, great, goodbye. End scene.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all. One conversation on a boat.
It's
What's so annoying about this scene though is that like so they get there and this guy says to them like, "Oh, you guys have been courting so many other people from the mountain," and it's like they want to make it very clear that they are that it looks like they're shopping around and like overseeing their like any attempt to make reconciliation with Aitmata. But like that part would be interesting to explore more. So why is that part just skipped over and then
well,
we just get to the conversation?
the problem
I don't know.
is that he's like, oh, you guys have been going around talking to a lot of other different like factions within the mountain, and they're like, oh yes, it's because, you know, it's a truce now, so we're trying to be friendly with everybody, ha ha ha. And then like 2 paragraphs later they're like, we want you to take over when we get rid of her. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so the the ruse is over. Have you said that to
Immediately?
everybody?
Yeah, like as soon as this guy says anything negative against Aitmata, they're like, "Oh, great, now we can be completely honest with you."
Yeah.
He's just like he doesn't think that she has no succession plan. He also thinks women should just like not hold positions of power beyond what he calls a support role.
Yeah.
But like it's weird. Like he could have been lying. They're like, "Oh god, what an idiot windbag he is."
The next chapter was really confusing for me. Maybe it was because I was at the end of my rope that day, so I just kind of
Mhm.
zoned out. But I remember two things. Because I know some of the No Peak boys, I believe Tar and some of the No Peak boys go and take out like a shipping ship, like a shipping ship, essentially.
Yeah.
Kind that you put
It's
shipping containers on.
Yeah, exactly. It's Ken. And he is with a couple of different green bones, including Lot, who we find out has been doing really well. He's been getting some mentorship and he's really flourishing now as a finger.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does like this cool thing with like a man, he does like a man on wire act to get onto the ship with his little like tightrope thing, which I thought was dope.
Yeah.
And that's like the main takeaway I got from the chapter. But
yeah. Like, I was like, oh my god. For once, somebody's using their fucking abilities other than in a fight.
Yeah.
And he did it, like, he used lightness so that he could, like, ninja run across rope. Like,
yeah, like Assassin's Creed style.
That's really cool. Hey, Fond du Lis, why isn't more stuff like this in the book?
It's the only time
or in the whole series.
Yeah, I know.
There's also a moment where they like take the ship and they capture everybody, and then they get somebody who's like in the know. Like they find a manager of some kind, and they are put into a position where they should kill that guy, and then Ken's like, no, I'm not going to kill you. I'm like, why is no one killing anybody?
I know, it's really weird.
Has everyone gone pacifist all of a sudden? This is outrageous.
I know.
But my question this whole chapter was, what's the purpose of this? Why are we here? What's happening? And it turns out that it was smuggling Jade.
Very cool stuff.
That's it.
We needed a whole chapter about that for sure. I had a similar relationship to this chapter because I was like, I gotta get to chapter 26 tonight. And then I made it to the beginning of 25 and was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to bed. I can't do this anymore.
We've got to do some math, right? Chapter 18. So, in the time between chapter 18 and 26, 8 months have passed.
Right.
Because Shay, in this chapter, makes a mention that the meeting with the Aspenians has been 8 months ago. And I was like,
right.
What? Has that little happened? I'm sorry, let me just reinforce, why is there a book then? Why is this here?
Yeah. Great question. Because that wasn't even that many chapters ago.
No.
This was chapter 18 to chapter 26. 8 months go by. And for what?
This chapter amounts to Shay going, backing the Aspenians has kind of blown up in our faces. This is not great. We don't like being associated with these people who are aggressively invading someone else's territory. This is weird. Shay tells on herself by having no real world skills because she can't cook. Because she was gonna cook marrow dinner, and then she's like, but I can't, so I had someone else do it. And I'm like, whoa, shocker.
Well, I think like before the dinner happens, like I got the sense that Shay was more like digging her heels in about defending the partnership with Aspenia. And
yeah, you're right. That was just me going, you guys picked the wrong horse to back. Why are you digging your heels in?
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, Shay would never admit that she's like made a mistake or, backed the wrong horse, but she like I guess we find out that like Igutan has been bombed a few times in the past week, and it's like totally fucked up their shine production. And then Shay wants to start sharing like the jade smuggling information she got from Ken to Aspenia too. And Woon's like, whoa, like, don't you think we're putting like too many eggs in one basket with like the amount that we are relying on them? But she's like, no, we'll get them to like solve our problems for us so that we don't have to use our own internal resources to do that, which seems weird to me.
That makes no sense.
I think she's just like a big simp for Aspenia.
Yeah. Yeah, then she has dinner because she invited Marrow over for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like murdering Hilo. She's like grabbing him by the like, don't you talk shit to him. This is supposed to be a fun dinner. We're not gonna kill him, okay? And he's like, chill.
Right.
It's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I just would like to meet him. You yourself said you wanted me to meet him.
Yeah.
So we'll have a meal.
And we get a whole chapter of absolutely riveting dinner party small talk.
It's awful.
Baffling.
Why we didn't need it. Basically, like Marrow, there's like some tense discourse at one point about whether or not Marrow would run for political office, and if he did, he would like do so as an independent. And Hilo really takes issue with that. He's like, yeah, but wouldn't you do it like as a friend to No Peak or whatever? And Marrow's like, well, no. I think it's important to have more voices in government that aren't clan affiliated. Right. And that is.
And he's like, what do you mean?
And when tries to save the day with conversation, but Marrow's like oblivious to it and keeps just like barreling forward with his like professorial discourse.
Yeah.
And Hilo like shuts him down in one statement basically, and he gets really embarrassed, and like I think he like goes a little red in the face because Shay goes, oh, she's like patting him on the arm. She's like, oh, Marrow, like he loves playing devil's advocate. Like he could convince somebody a white cat is black or a black cat is white. And Hilo just kind of like folds his arms and he's like, doesn't change the color of the cat though. Yeah. And then Marrow doesn't say a word for the rest of the meal.
Yeah. And then after dinner, Shay finds out through Hilo that Woon had gotten married,
or he's getting married.
Right. And in true Shay fashion, she's upset about it.
Of course she is. He's supposed to pine for her for the rest of his life. And you don't move on from Shay.
My favorite part of this whole chapter was after that, she was like, oh, what do you mean he's getting married? He's like, I don't know, he came to me and want to get married. And I'm like, sure, of course, bro. Anyway, how's Andon? And she's like, like she dead ass forgot about him. Same though.
Yeah, who? I'd like to forget about Andon.
But basically she just kind of vaguely recounts the chapters we read already. This book was a mistake. Wanda Lee, you should have talked to your publishers out of this.
Yeah.
This was a mistake.
I can't even call it filler because it does nothing to fill anything.
No,
like it's just
extra words.
A void. It's just a void of words and and I'm just coming off of Atlas 6, which I had a really hard time with. I finally finished it.
After this book, we're going to get a good one. even if we have to force it.
Yeah. It's just every book I'm reading right now is a series of conversations I would love to get out of,
Yeah.
but can't.
This next chapter is my favorite because my only note in it is I've listened to this whole chapter and I have nothing to say about it.
Well, there's one thing we missed in the previous chapter, which was like a beautiful moment of Shay getting her ass handed to her by the news, where she shows up at her office and that very scathing article has been written about her.
Oh yeah.
Calling her like revealing her civilian informant past to Hispania, the payments she received and the student visa she got. And the way it's worded makes her sound awful, and all of it is entirely true. Like, not a word of it has actually been exaggerated or framed in a way that makes her look worse. Like, it's just straight up the facts.
Yeah, just the facts, ma'am.
It brought me so much joy. She's like, call the paper. We need to shut this down immediately. And it's like, what are you going to do about it?
She even did she did one of those like comedy paper scrunches where they're reading it and they're like curses.
As if that gets rid of it. Yeah.
But yeah, this next chapter, don't remember a thing about it because my note is that I don't want to talk about it. Or that I have nothing to say about it, rather.
All it is Hilo having people over to his house and having meeting after meeting in his office. One is a couple that comes in and they're like, our daughter was raped and beaten.
Oh, yeah, and I remember that now.
He's like, I can't do anything about it. And then Hami, the luck bringer, and two politicians, or like two politicians or two lantern men? I think it's two politicians who might be lantern men.
I think
they come in.
It's one politician and two lantern men. But they come in and they're doing, boy, oh boy. Lantern men get away with murder in this series, dude.
Why? How does this keep happening?
The only time lantern men ever show up is when they're like, where's our money?
Yeah.
And this time they come in wringing their hands like, oh, can we trust Shay-san? And I was like, if I was Hilo in this scenario, I would have torn those men apart.
Fully, and I'm shocked that he didn't.
Like, how dare you? Who do you think you are? Coming into my office and talking like that? Do you know who that's my fucking sister, you dipshit.
Yeah.
But Hilo's just like, don't worry about it, huh?
It's dumb. It's a dumb chapter. Yeah. It doesn't need to exist.
The next chapter is my note is I mapped out the cyclical nature of Barrow's existence.
Okay.
And it is have misplaced confidence, fail, invent an edge, get confidence, fail, invent an edge, get confidence, fail. It's truly a Fibonacci spiral of dumb fuckery.
Yeah. This was the only chapter where he said something that I agreed with, though. Like,
where he said killing a greenbone's too risky, backing down like a bitch because he knows he actually has to fight them. Yeah.
Well, like, he's like, it's great that we're not getting any work because, like, they haven't been able to get work since, like, they're running with the Mountain Clan. And he's like, that means we can devote all our time now to our basement karate and then we kill the Make brothers. And Barrow's like, are you fucking out of your mind, you idiot? And he's like, I don't give a fuck about these guys. Like, you're stupid for thinking you can kill them. Moot's like, Tar killed my Da. And then Barrow's like, your Da was a fucking idiot. He deserved to die. And then he like kind of feels bad about it after. But they finally see Soradio and Barrow like demands work. And he's like, this isn't like a scavenger job. Like, it's a whispered name. And then he's immediately like, not interested. And Moot's like, come on, like, this is it. This is our chance.
I
But
love anytime that Moot parrots back something that Barrow said to him. Barrow's like, oh, that's so stupid. Why would you ever fucking say that to me in my presence?
yeah, true.
He loves changing his mind to whatever Barrow changes his mind to whatever Moot said. Like, he goes
Yeah.
against it. Like, he's just like, no, whatever you said, I don't want to do it. Fuck you.
Yeah, even if it's something he said like the previous day.
Mm-hmm. It's so beautiful. And the fact that he's like, yeah, you'll get real work. You just have to go kill a greenbone. And Barrow's like, nah, fuck that. I ain't no.
Yeah, I'm not that stupid.
Stupid pussy. Oh, the next chapter is more lantern men being insufferable.
Why do we need these chapters? Like
this time,
oh,
lantern
anyway.
men are coming directly to Shay, like, oh, can we trust you? Are you trustworthy enough? And I'm like, kill these men. Get new ones. People are
Right?
lining up to be lantern men. Fucking kill these assholes and get the new ones. What? You guys are not running a fucking charity here. This is a criminal organization.
Yeah.
You come in here with that kind of attitude, 15 people would love to take your place, you dickhead.
Yeah, it's so weird that they're still like placating lantern men at every turn. Like, yes, you need their business, but you don't have to be bitches about it.
Yeah. And then, big twist, we find out that Shaysa is pregante. Ooh, like, this is the biggest. We got babies all over the place in this book.
Everyone's having babies, or like everyone's getting pregnant all of a sudden. It's just an incredibly fertile time in Janloon. Like,
yeah, everybody's just say that. But anyway, the next chapter is essentially like Wen taking Shay to get an abortion. And she's like, don't worry, I'll tell him it's my prenatal. And I was like, prenatal? You just had it. Why are you going for prenatal? That's not what that means. And she's like, it's my second. And I was like, what, dude? That can't be healthy.
So wait, how many months? Like, doctors recommend waiting at like 18 to 24 months.
It has not been that long.
A lot of people, like, I know people who have siblings that are like a year apart, but like this is like 8 months. Like
8 months is not long enough.
Why would you want to have another baby when you're still breastfeeding the first baby?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you mind?
It's a good way to ruin those bad boys.
It's back in mind.
It's really weird. The math does add up, so.
Oh, fine. Did you calculate it?
Yeah, fine, but at the same time, the normal people wait like 2 years. 2 years is the normal distance between kids.
She's already like 12 weeks pregnant too, so like.
It's like 7 months.
When?
No, less than that.
Well, it's like 4. Or is it 3? I don't know.
I don't know.
What are numbers? It's enough that it's like, what are you doing?
But this chapter had, like, it really got close to the line of being, like, painting abortion in a light that you're doing something bad.
Yeah. I was like, where are they going to go with this? And am I going to hate it?
Like, I had my... You better watch it. Okay. All right. You got real close there, but...
Yeah, because Shay goes to Wen like, do you think less of me now? But then Wen kind of goes real hard in the other direction. She's like, are you kidding? Like, if you didn't abort that baby, I would fucking hate your ass. Like, your job is to be the weatherman. Like, I can't believe that you would ever consider having a child.
Completely outrageous. How could you ever be so selfless?
Selfish as to have a baby and not support Hilo forever and die.
But apparently there's a holiday going on.
Heroes Day.
Right, which I ignored a lot of because it was just exposition after exposition. I was like, bep, 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 don't need to hear it. Because I guarantee you it doesn't matter.
There's a prince? Have we known about the fact that there's been a prince this whole time?
Yeah. He's mentioned in the first book.
Is he? Okay. I was like, this is the first I'm hearing about this, but apparently it's not.
But yeah, basically they just parade the prince around and they're like, oh, this is a day because people died when there was the uprising. It's very sad. And all the clan heads are supposed to come and give speeches, and Hilo's got his nice speech prepared that's very, like, overwritten. It's very sterile.
Yeah, very feel good.
And Aitmata gets up there and she's like, hey everybody, hope you're having a nice holiday. Anyway, let's talk about the filthy slut that is Shay.
Yeah, she's like, she's a weak little bitch. She's not Kekanese. And like, Ait for a while has been feeding this, like, no matter what happens internationally, the Mountain Clan is like, you, like, when it comes to gold and jade, like, pick Jade. Jade will defend Kakon against all intruders. And like, really spewing this, like, nationalistic, like, vitriol and, like, coming for no peak. And like, Hilo's been asked a number of times, like, by the press or whatever, about his response to Shay's, like, Espenian leanings, and he's like, why the fuck are we not talking about the fact that the leader of the other clan murdered everyone she ever met to get into her position of power? But everybody, no one cares about that anymore. They're like, nah, that's old news. Like, we're over that.
All of Kakon is like, who cares? We're racist now.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy.
they want to burn Shay at the stake, kind of.
Yeah.
They're not that worked up about it, but they're mad. Like, it's just kind of like,
get there.
They've got the, like, I don't like that. I don't like that she did that fucking 7 years ago or whatever.
Shay shows up out of nowhere.
Yes.
As Ait is delivering her hate speech. And she's like, that's it. And then she challenges or offers Ait a clean blade, which is Kekanese for pew pew. I challenge you to a duel.
I was like, thank fucking God, something's happened.
Yeah, it's about time, please. Anything would be great.
I didn't write it down, but I was like, Shay dies. For sure. There's no way that Fonda Lee would give up her red herring main villain second book. Because I can almost guarantee that Aitmata will not be the main villain.
No.
She is acting like it. She's pretending to be. But she'll be killed.
Eventually.
Not by No Peak. And then that won't be... Like, Barrow's the main villain. He's the final boss. For some reason. Some kid off the street. But whatever. It's a second interlude time. Where we learn about the Kekanese War of the Roses.
Right.
That's it. It was basically just like two sisters who had to fight. And everybody thought that was very weird that women were fighting.
Yeah, like the last sentence is like, out of small resentments spring great wars. And by the way, here's one of those instances happening currently in the whole book.
Chapter 31 is Shay fretting most of the time.
Yeah.
Half of this chapter is her fretting. Like the actual duel is the last 5 minutes of a 30-minute long chapter.
It's 2 pages long.
Uh, but I'm like, well, look at it this way, Shay. If you lose, you don't have to worry about it anymore. You'll be dead.
Mm-hmm.
But if you win,
And honestly, I'd be okay with that.
yeah, and if you win, problem solved also.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the way, you know how in like the final episode of a sitcom, when the last character to leave is kind of glancing around the place that they've all hung out for all those seasons, like
Yeah.
that's how Shay was acting around the house. She's like,
Yeah.
well, I guess it was really the Jade City and all of us. As she like exits the door, and it's like, what are you doing? This is so dumb.
Yeah, I have no words.
But anyway, the fight is anticlimactic. Kind of. It's okay.
It's kind of fun for like a few seconds, and then it's like, okay, wrap it up.
Yeah, they do a lot of fighting. Aitmata gets her ear cut off.
Mm-hmm.
Shay gets disemboweled.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And I was
She
like, yes,
steals.
yes, yes, yes.
I know it mentioned something about how like blood is pouring out of her like a waterfall, and I was like, oh, there's no way she's surviving this.
But she does.
But she survives. How? We don't know.
Which is
The amount of blood
it's
she
such a
lost-
cop out, dude. Aitmata would have killed that bitch. But she was like, help. Or not help, I concede.
Yeah.
And putting her in a position to, like, she did it specifically to put Aitmata in the position of, if you kill me, everyone will see that you're the bloodthirsty monster that everybody knows you as, or you let me live and you still win anyway. I was like, that's not a great ultimatum. Like, the obvious choice is that she doesn't kill you.
But why now, in this moment, would I suddenly care about people knowing that she likes to kill for fun? Because she makes like...
The whole book has been her, like, garnering the support of the people. Like, she's been really getting them on her side, and if she were to murder in cold blood in front of, like, the huge crowd, they probably would have been like, ew, boo, don't do that.
Well, it's just weird where they draw the line, because calling her a disgusting slut and that no people speak, and like saying all this shit about her verbally is fine, but then, and like they have like the murder honor culture anyways, and it's like killing is normalized. I don't know. It just, I can understand why she didn't do it, but it felt very contrary to the character and the like no fucks given about murder attitude she's created.
Yeah.
But it was just very off-brand for her.
Yeah.
To not murder.
Also, to have a duel and then not have anybody die. Lame.
Boring. Very boring stuff.
But with the final chapter that we read this time, we find out that this war in Egotan has been going on for a year.
What?
Where did the time go? But like my biggest note in chapter 32 is, now what? Because Shay just kind of like wakes up in the hospital, and she's even like, well, now what?
Guess I'm gonna go break up with my boyfriend just to keep the book going.
Yeah, and then
my favorite part with though is that she didn't talk to him for like a month. Yeah. Basically, like dinner happened, then they had a phone call later. He told her he loved her, and she was like, "Me too."
Gotta go bye.
And then then she just challenges Ait to a duel and doesn't tell him. He finds out from the news. And she goes to visit him finally. Like she didn't let him come to see her in the hospital.
before she goes and meets with Marrow, the Lantern Men that were
Oh,
basically
right.
like
Yeah.
spitting on her shoes turn up and they're like, "Oh, we're so glad that you survived." And I was like, I would be like, look, man, there's gonna be some changes around here. Lantern Men
I was
out.
sentenced to death.
Lantern Men out. We're going to run businesses ourselves. We're just all Greenbone employees. You guys fucking kick rocks.
Yeah. They're awful. And like she calls Hami into her office and basically is like, I want you to move to Port Massey and open up a branch of the Weatherman's office, which
Yeah.
is the right move, I think. Like, get him out of there. And if he's clearly gonna like support anybody who's anti-Shay, like she knows he's good at his job and she doesn't want to like murder him over it, but getting him out of town is like a pretty good call, I think.
Yeah. But then she goes to meet with Marrow, who reveals himself to be quite the things are gonna be different when we're married guy.
Yeah.
Like he says, um, I would have reminded you of this, that, and the other thing like 4 different times, and I'm like, whoa, buddy, you need to fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? I would have reminded you. Are you saying I'm an idiot that can't remember shit for myself? Eat my asshole, bro.
Yeah, it was very, very cringe altogether. And they break up, and I'm glad about it.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, those are the chapters we read. Riveting stuff.
32 more to
Truly.
go.
We're only halfway. I want to die.
Thank
I
God.
am praying for death with this book.
Thank God. We're gonna get to Berlin by Christmas. That's it, boys and girls. And then after this book, we're gonna do a end of year roundup where we talk about all the books that we read that weren't on the podcast this year. That should be fun. I read some really fun stuff. I don't think you did. Based on what you've been telling me, I don't think you read anything good.
I've had a bad year for side books. I mean, you'll hear all about it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Hopefully on time.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.